somebody have a question already?
I think Randy just started the recording.
Oh, okay. Hi, Randy.
Good evening.
Yeah, who was that? That was not
That
Randy.
was Randy,
Yes,
right?
That's Randy.
Oh, that was
Randy.
Oh, hi, Randy. Okay. We've got a lot of Randys tonight. Okay. Let's get started. Jared, I'm going to start off with your first agenda item, please.
Absolutely. The budget projection, we have been discussing it the past couple Audit and Finance Committee meetings, as well as last week's Buildings and Grounds. So I did provide an updated version of the budget projection for you tonight. Really the only change from last week when we met was I did get an updated projected assessed value for the district from the county assessment office, which I am pleased to announce went up just under $2 million. As it typically does, is they add some properties on this time of the year before they get ready to certify that here, hopefully by the end of the week, if not by the end of next week. But it did go up 2 million, or just under 2 million, like I said, bringing us an additional right around $22,000 of additional real estate tax revenue. So that's why you can see a slight difference in the revenue side of the budget there compared to where we were a week ago. Like I said, hopefully that final assessed value will be set or certified by the county here. I'm hoping by the end of this week, if not.
Better. School taxes.
Yes.
So you're saying the revenues changed. I only wrote the first page at the last edition, but.
The local source on the cover page there should have gone up by around $22,000.
Okay. Local source. Okay. Good, that helps. Okay, any questions? Terry, anything to ask about?
No.
Cindy?
And I will continue to review it as we go forward here. Any changes, we've not heard anything directly from the state as to where they're at in their budget adoption yet. We are, I will be attending a regional PASBO meeting, which is the state's Association of School Business Officials, next Friday down at Chestnut Ridge, where Senator Pittman and Representative Struzzi will be attending to speak to us. Hoping they will be able to provide some what of a budget update for us that evening, or that I guess during the day, and I will bring that information back to the board with anything they have.
Bring up cyber schools.
Somebody typically does, and if they do not, I will certainly will as well.
Stand up.
A question popped into my head. The positions that are on the agenda tonight, are they all of them in here?
Yes, they are all included in that.
So you're talking about this.
Even the junior high ones?
No, the positions that are on the agenda for hiring.
Aren't these all?
Yeah, Jared added them when you approved us to advertise and interview. So the 2 junior high positions.
Oh, Cindy just pointed out the cuts. Okay.
Yeah, when the positions were voted on a couple months ago to actually create the positions and advertise, I added them to the budget.
Plus, like Julia said, then all this stuff's already in here also.
Yes, all that stuff is a list of possible cuts is already included in here.
Since we're on that, Terry, what do you think of this list of cuts $1 million? If we did all of it, of course, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we want to talk through that.
Yeah.
We don't actually recommend that you cut all those.
Really?
No, you asked us to go and look at what we could cut. What were the things that were, there for us to reduce? And so we broke them down into some different areas. For example, the junior high position and the math and the English position, junior high, and the nurse for East Pike. Those are new positions. You do not have to hire them. We would argue from the academic side, if you want us to run the MTSS program at the junior high the way we want to, the way it was intended and planned, we need those positions. We would like those positions. However, they are new money. They are, so we understand that there's a, budgetary impact as well. So it's one thing for you to consider. All those partnerships, all those other, the behavior specialists, the literacy interns, the speech interns, the GAs, those are all people that those are partnerships with IUP that we have developed over the years. There are people who've already interviewed for those positions and applied for those positions and have been awarded those positions. So there's a little bit more of a significant impact this year, but down the road, when the ESSER's money runs out, I think that's a conversation we seriously have to have as to, which of these do we need to support. We would argue that we need to keep those partnerships going because, we and IUP have a symbiotic relationship. When they do well, we do well. When we do well, they do well. And, those partnerships are important to our students as well as their students and their viability as well. So we have some tough decisions to make out, but those are all paid for currently by ESSER. So when the ESSER's money runs out, we really have to talk about, where is that money coming from and which are the most important.
Which ones are ESSER's funded?
The behavior specialists are ESSER's funded. The literacy interns have been ESSER's funded.
Speech interns, psych GAs, psych interns.
So it's behavior specialist, 90,000, speech interns at 95, literacy interns at 100, and psych GAs at 50,000, and psych interns at 50,000.
So $500,000.
And then summer camp as well down there has been funded by ESSER. So
Wow.
Here's
And
my
this is the last year for it, right?
yes,
This is, so,
Last year for ESSER's and
because in your synopsis of the agenda, your video, I thought you said that, I don't remember, the database. Anyhow, you said that it had been funded, it's like $50,000 a year,
correct, Lincoln.
been funded with ESSER's for the next 3 years.
We can
So-
purchase it for 3 years with the ESSER's money right now.
I see, okay.
So we buy a
All
3-year
right,
license.
I didn't know if we had other ESSER's funding that we were dragging out over that.
ESSER funding that officially ends September of 2024.
Okay.
Okay, so to fill in Terry and Ron, or Walter.
Walter, this is Walter.
Ron. I do know your names, but just not.
We look alike.
Oh dear. Okay, so Jared's projecting $22,000 in additional revenue from the tax assessment office. Hopefully that'll lock in by the end of the week because our assessment went up because there's new taxpayers. Isn't that a miracle? Then Terry brought up a question. And we looked at this sheet called Indiana Area School District Listing of Potential Budget Cuts right here. This is what it looks like. And we're now finding out that, as we've always known, that the ESSER programs will be done this year. So summer credit, or excuse me, did you say summer credit advancement
No,
or summer camp?
summer camp.
Summer camp is funded by
Yeah,
ESSER's.
that's been a dream for a few years. Okay. So summer
Yeah.
camp, psych, yeah, it's been wonderful too. To me, that takes priority.
Do we
Good.
have enough money to cover it this year or no?
This
Yes.
year we do, yes.
When you say this year, you're referring to right now or next budget cycle? That's what I'm,
This summer coming up, so typically the summer
So we've
camp
already
runs
paid
over
for
2
it.
fiscal years. So it'll start in this current school year and then July 1, the new school year, and we have at least a week into the new school year. What we consider the new school year.
so some of these are IUP ESSER funds. And my curiosity, I want to hear from Sue on that. And then also, what I'm curious about is if we were to go out and hire people to be behavior specialists, for example, I would imagine, I don't know how many you would need, but I think I've always thought these were very reasonable prices for us, which you've locked in with the ESSER money. Now, how do you conceive of this after this year?
I'm not sure. We'd have to talk about that. That is a tremendous savings on what it would cost us to
Yeah.
hire, maybe we have 5, 6.
Yeah, it's a little slightly more than what we pay a paraprofessional.
Wow. Okay.
So, it is a tremendous value that way. And it also, those people, along with the psych interns and the psych GAs, do a lot of that behavior work that speaks to safety. It's the proactive measures for safety, So, we met with Dr. McGowan. He was like, look, my best advice for you is be proactive about safety because when you're reactive, it's just a matter of how bad is the damage.
And who is McGowan?
Dr. McGowan is a professor at IUP. He also sits on the Pennsylvania Commission for Crime and Delinquency. He helped write the threat assessment processes that they use. And he, happens to be a tremendous local resource who came and worked with us on our threat assessment plan and walked us through, the best ways to approach that. So he was, and, so again, these are things that we have ESSERS, ESSERS has been used to fund them. They definitely have value. Driver's education, and, we brought that to you before, if you want to consider cutting that. That $70,000 speaks to only the teacher time. That does not speak to the vehicle, the maintenance, the extra time in the vehicle outside the school day. It's probably in the neighborhood of $100,000 a year if you were to cut that program 100%. That is not ESSERS funded. That's just something we've been discussing as a potential cut since for a couple of years now. Anyway, the additional LPN, the MTSS positions at the junior high, those are not ESSERS funded. Those are new money. And again, we would argue that we keep all of these things. However, you wanted us to bring it to you. Those are things that we can make decisions on now.
6 out of the last 7 are ESSERS funded. Walter, that's going to be that money's going away. It's $650,000.
Still doesn't help the budget much.
And what's the deal on the additional LPN?
That was the LPN that the board approved in the past to help out with the life skills and autistic support classrooms here at East Pike. We've interviewed him. I believe we have it on the agenda for this evening, don't we?
We are not. We've
not.
interviewed. We are waiting to make a decision on that. We were also waiting for tonight. It is a position that was, I think, approved in the fall. We just have been unable to fill it. We had one candidate, and then we had somebody resign internally, so we filled it with our one candidate and just have not been able to get good applications until more recently, where for some reason we received 6 or 7. We had a day of interviews last week, and we have 1 or 2 good candidates that we're ready to recommend if the board chooses to keep that position.
Let me ask this question, because $650,000 out of the 135 is ESSERS. So to me, in my math, even if we cut those, it's really not a savings, right?
Well,
Because what are you going to do with height?
You could technically use that funding for other things
Other
that
things.
within your budget right now, but you're going to have to make. You're just kind of eliminating future expenses to
Right.
use that revenue currently in the current year.
Right. So it's not good.
no, and I will say, what I will say in our defense and everybody's defense is that, we didn't put a lot of people. Some school districts are facing the COVID cliff here when ESSERS, they actually funded teaching positions, and they're about to start furloughing people. The board was smart enough to not do that and recommend that we put our money into these partnerships. But again, these partnerships are still connected to people who have accepted positions for the fall to help us out, and they do help kids. The speech interns are coming to show you the data with their growth here soon. The reading interns have been a part of our process for many, many years. We've just been using ESSERS funds to pay for that for a
Thank
while.
goodness
So
we had it.
what's that?
Thank goodness we've had it. I mean, the thing is that you stated in your very nice hello to the district that's on the website. You said, we're going to do everything we can to get students to read by the 3rd grade.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you had to choose one of these that you think of the internships, for example, that you think has been the most helpful, which would you choose on an academic level?
I don't know if I'm ready to answer that right now. I'd have to
Because
go
it could
back.
be summer camp for all I know. I mean, I don't know, but we've got to do an analysis of academically where we stand. I mean, I can see one right here that I think we could do without.
Well, summer camp, we've had that partnership with the 21st Century. We've kind of made a plan for them to kind of take over that
next year.
next year.
Next year.
So they're going to be partnering us with us this year, which is causing some change, but we're basically, the way we're looking at it is we're running the academic portion of that this year while they're running the fun stuff, right? And then next year, we're going to kind of step back a little bit and let them take it. Now, problem with that is that it's, we can't control as much of the academic piece of that, which is a problem. However, that money allocated for summer camp was specifically a response to the learning loss of COVID. We've now run it for 3 years, going on 4 years. It's something that it's $250,000. We need to redesign that so we can provide academic support, which is not at the same level as we have.
So some people have asked, is it just fancy daycare? And I've pushed back on that a lot. And I think we have to have an evaluation before we can decide on this of what's really been statistically the most
Well, and I think that's,
rewarding to students and to faculty.
and I think that's what Jared and I are proposing here is like, we want you to approve the budget as is with the deficit as a worst case scenario. And then we start having some conversations about these and other things. We need to do a curriculum audit across the district and see, kind of what the state of the union is as far as, who really is in need. Currently, we have a curriculum cycle that pops up every so many years, and we allocate money to those things. We do it because budgetarily it makes sense, so we don't get hammered with a whole bunch of really expensive things at the same time. However, that doesn't mean we need to buy things just because it's someone's turn. So I think what we need to do is really look into where, if we were to redesign that and reset it, what are the next couple priorities? We need to look at all of our spending in every department. Where do we spend too much? Where can we tighten things up a little bit? Because all of these things, though they are, a lot of them are new costs that we could cut without too much,
When do you think you could get an audit completed? I mean, what's your
It's gonna
time
take-
frame?
Oh, it's gonna take some time. I'm really
6 months?
somewhere in there. Yeah, somewhere in there. It's just time to go back and look at our systems, have the, put the principals on, looking at their budgets, the maintenance guys looking at their budgets and transportation, et cetera. Can we save some money by reducing a bus or two? Can we save money by, scheduling maintenance people differently? Can we save money by not buying curriculum right away and, look at those practices? I mean, we're still not going to be, it's not going to be $4.5 million worth of savings. I got to tell you that.
Right, but what do you think you can hit, $1 million, $1.5 million? I mean, if you were to sort of just, I know you haven't been sitting in this seat for long, but I would think it's not hard to take $1 million out. Am I mistaken?
I don't know. I'm just wary to
To
make a
predict,
promise I
even to
can't.
predict. Well, not a promise, but
Yeah, I don't
I don't
know.
expect any promise.
One
mean,
big
just for the-
issue is the salaries and benefits are 45 million of the 64. So that only leaves you 19
For
million to
discretionary spending, basically just
play,
academic.
to look at.
Yeah, that's an age-old problem.
Yeah, and that's typical across districts. I think all districts, the majority of their expenses is people,
So,
Go ahead, Cindy.
Go ahead, Cindy.
so when I looked at this list, there were two that I thought, okay, fine, I could live without. The rest of them, I was just horrified that they were on there. But the second thought that popped into my head is the risk of being tarred and feathered when I leave here. No cuts in sports? Not even
We haven't even gotten
10%?
that
You
far
just
yet.
mentioned
This was-
transportation, which
Yeah.
is something that
That would be something as well. I mean, we got to look at all the places where we're spending money and see how.
Things should be
efficiently and
tightened up.
effectively we're spending. Absolutely.
I think athletics are one place where you could get an awful lot of donor involvement. And I think we've all been saying for a couple of years that there might be a way to start a special fundraiser so we don't have to go for pay for play, but we can expect the community to start ponying up more. And we know very little about how much the boosters have that they don't spend. We have no idea what that is. We don't know anything about what they're collecting, except what Jared collects once a year. I think it's a very kind of like a little sieve. And there's no, so the track team needs, what is it they need now? What is it that we just got them? Something
We
to
just
jump
got a
in?
big pit for the
Pit.
jumpers.
Yeah, I mean,
Last year.
they have a booster group, don't they?
I don't believe track and field does.
But there could be a way to coordinate these boosters. I think it is a good place to take off. I think you could probably shave $100,000.
I mean, their entire supply budget, including transportation and everything, is $250,000.
One of the
That's not
things,
including coaches.
One
but
of
that
the,
is their discretion.
What's the number
So
again?
the boosters are.
Around $250,000 for the high school and around, I think, probably 60,000 for the junior high.
So 310,000.
one
And that
of,
includes transportation, all their supplies, referees, travel
Yeah.
for all the sports.
one
And that
of,
hasn't been increased in over 10 years.
that's okay. But one of the things that, here's Tom, one of the things that, I found with fundraising is, and I think this is also true with boosters, is that recently we had a situation where a group of alums decided they wanted to plant trees, all kinds of trees. They had lined up these trees to be planted, to be named after whatever, and their alumni group put that forward. We don't need trees. We don't need trees, but we could use things like ABC. And that's where I'm coming from. And I was surprised how much they were gonna spend on trees and how many hundreds of trees they were gonna plant. But that's not the immediate problem. I understand it's part of global warming, but I don't know that we can necessarily, where I'm talking about, that's a first.
It's not a
priority.
forestry school, is it?
It's not a forestry school, no, that's exactly right. So it does, so I think so we found out with the wrestlers that they were buying mats because they said they needed them and they were expensive mats. They were talking about thousands of dollars on their credit card. Well, how do we know they needed them? You know, I mean, there's no way and I do think Cinda's right, it's a sieve. And it's not gonna be easy because boosters, I'm sure, don't want to be told what to do or how to do it or anything else, but we can put it out there. Right, Walter?
To your point, though, when they, in the wrestlers' case, they ended up getting the US Army, I think, bought one of their mats for them. Okay, for sponsorship, there's an Army logo on it at some point, as part of the deal. So, perhaps some of that could be done as well, to your point, Julie.
It would have to be a special committee of the board, I think, with the administration and some coaches. No, I'm just tossing it out.
No, I think, like I said, we have to look at everywhere we spend.
So we've gone through the budget projection, proposed budget adoption, we're kind of holding that off. We have to talk about the tax rate discussion, list of possible budget cuts, it's something to think about, but we're gonna have to wait to hear from you. I have two that I think you could probably wouldn't have to use. Sue, do you have any comments about these IEP internships?
I mean, like Rob said, it's been a win-win,
Yeah. it's been a-
for the district and for our IUP students. And a lot of them, at least the literacy GAs, they're actually getting hired here then as brand new teachers, which is kind of nice. I mean, the fact that they've spent at least a year, some of them 2 years here in the school training to be a teacher, learning the curriculum here. And they're coming in as new teachers, which for a long time, this district hardly ever hired a new teacher. They were hiring teachers with more experience at a higher level on the pay scale. So even though they have to come in a little higher because they have a master's degree, the district is then not paying for them to get their master's degree in the future. So you have to weigh the odds. But in the speech interns, they're working in the area of literacy also, really. So you're really getting a hands-on literacy program. The psych ones, I mean, they're important too. And the fact that we have so many kids with mental health needs, with emotional needs. And so, if I had to go down this list, I don't.
That's what I'm saying. It's
They're all
difficult
academic,
to even recommend. And I mean, that's why we
student-centered.
call these recommended.
I mean,
Yeah.
didn't we fight for these things just last year and the year before because we needed them?
Yeah.
And now we're talking about suddenly we don't need them enough we don't want to raise people's taxes, we don't want to get another loan or a bond. So we're going to cut out the step forward we took to take 2 steps back.
Tammy, we took the step forward knowing full well we were taking it with ESSER's funds
I know.
and the ESSER's is running out.
And
So
we,
now we're gonna do the hard thing and keep those things that we want and we need.
right, well,
Missed
it's-
that. You may miss that.
well,
650,000 of this is funded by ESSERS, which
Yeah,
runs out.
but I'm saying the summer camp, we were already talking about having Aaron take over. Right.
21st century. learning.
So that's taking care of that. Summer credit advancement, yeah. It's just that we fought for the driver's education, knowing that we needed it for the kids to stay safe. And the MTSS and behavior specialists and the psychs, that was helping get us on the map of getting us ahead of everybody. Even, I think you guys were being asked to tell your methods and stuff down in Harrisburg. So I would try to find anything other than getting rid of these, except for the summer camp and advancement.
But it would mean class size, wouldn't it? I mean, isn't class size sort of one of the problems in terms of other positions that if you didn't fill some of these positions, you'd have like in English, you'd have larger class sizes in the upper grades, wouldn't you?
Well, these positions if we're talking about the junior
Not
high.
these, but just in general.
In general, if we don't fill positions, yeah, that would definitely have an impact on class size. These positions are not designed to reduce class size so much as they are to provide intervention support for students that need.
And the reason these positions were put on there were because these were not classroom teachers, and that was our thought was we're not going to put any positions that are on here that are classroom teachers or reading specialists because those are of top priority, absolutely essential to the workings of the day-to-day.
Yep. Anybody else?
I just,
Tammy, go ahead.
sorry, one more question.
I had one question on driver's ed. Is there a reason you couldn't charge for driver's ed classes?
We have in the past.
Because that would cover the 70,000 very easily, I would believe.
I don't know if we charge that much.
We've only ever charged $150. I mean, in order to completely cover it, it'd be
There's a
cheaper
limit.
for them to go elsewhere than it would be.
Okay. There's a
buy it
limited
here.
number of hours that they have, that the $70,000 person has to teach. And so it's limited to 30, 40 some students,
I thought we were teaching 80-some this year.
We're reaching 80.
That's what I thought.
but not with more than one person.
We had to hire some supplementary staff to do so that's why I said that 70,000 is actually probably 100,000 for driver's ed because we're paying extra duty, extra pay, for teachers that money just hasn't come in yet, so
It's more than that then, because you said it was 70 for the teacher only.
that.
And if
that
you added
credit
the
for
car
Roger, that-
expenses and other stuff, then it went up to 100.
Well, that's just why,
So-
and I meant, if I didn't say it before, I was talking about the extra hours in the
Okay,
summer. But
okay.
that 70,000 just represents the 7 periods in the day, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So then.
So how many students are represented in the summer credit advancement? How many students are doing that? Credit recovery, we've got, correct me if I'm not remembering correctly, credit recovery is free.
Both are free if you're free and reduced lunch. If you are not free and reduced lunch, then there's a fee for
For both?
both. And at credit recovery, there are 119 students currently registered for credit advancement.
Wouldn't dual enrollment help with that?
Well, that's why I think they take credit advancement courses so they have access to those things in
I
the
see.
fall. So I take my gym class in the summer, so I have a free slot on my schedule in the fall, so I can take a dual enrollment course. So I can take the singletons like AP Physics or those things are only offered one time a
Orchestra,
day.
band, all those special
Sure.
courses.
And that's the thing, there's not a thing on this list that I would recommend that we cut, because it has an impact on kids one way or the other. But, we're looking at things that, like Kristen said, aren't,
I don't like the word cut. I
okay?
think we have to scour this whole thing. I think it's a kind of a global thing that we have to look at and see where, athletic, we know what we spend. If we can target taking 10% off it somehow. I think I'd rather look at it because we're not a community college, but at the same time.
So all of our dual enrollment is paid now, right? We have donations that are paying the dual enrollment.
Currently, yeah.
What is the cost per student for a dual enrollment class? I'll tell you why. Because if I take this summer credit advancement, 15,000 by 119 students, that's $126 a piece. Does a dual enrollment class cost our students or cost somebody more than $125?
Yes, ma'am.
So if the students are getting their dual enrollment classes for free, could we not expect them to pony up $125 to get the credit advancement?
We
I
do,
mean,
we do currently charge $125 for the credit advancement if you're not free and reduced.
okay, so how many of those 119 students are free and reduced?
Have to go look and get back to it.
Cinda, I think though the idea is a scheduling issue with the student. So they want to do the summer credit advancement
Right.
so that they can essentially
So-
take 10 courses or 11 courses instead of
Right.
8 courses that.
So then maybe they can pay $125 for the summer class.
Even more important is scheduling, that by taking some of the required courses like a PE class or a computer class, that they're required to take our class, not something from Westmoreland. They're required to take our class. They can then free up a slot in their schedule to take a different class that they want to take. And my example will be my daughter, who had to pick between computer literacy course or third year Spanish. And so we didn't have this when she came through, so she never took third year Spanish because she had to take keyboard. Okay, and so that, we have to get a lot freer with our requirements if we're going to be. But it's they take it for 2 reasons.
Okay. Well, I don't think we'll decide this tonight. Jim, do you have anything specific? Do you have anything to say?
I would like to address the summer camp though. And an untested IU camp in the summertime as compared to our tested camp is not the same. And the concern is that it would not be nearly as successful nor as popular. Or as useful until we see what they're really going to do.
Yeah, this year is going to be a learning experience for them
Yeah.
to see what they think they can handle. We're already at their limit for the number of kids they can handle by the grant. So they wouldn't, at some point they'd already be talking about turning kids away. We're on pace to probably hit about 350 students registered again for this summer. So it is a very popular camp. It's, and it does help a lot of kids. So it is valuable, but all of these are valuable.
And we're going to lose control over the
Well, we knew
content or the method of presentation, when we do the grant funding.
we're going to have to scale it back quite a bit. Yeah, maybe we only provide reading intervention for students that are behind in reading. Like right now, everybody that goes through that camp gets an hour of reading, an hour of math, and an hour of fun before, whatever that physical activity is or the games they play before they have lunch. And then they used to go home. Now that camp is going to be extended till 2:30. They're going to do STEM activities and crafts and arts and stuff like that, field trips. And that's where that grant comes in to help, enhance what we're doing. But if we can't maintain $250,000 to run that camp, then we need to look at how, when we scale it back to save money, how can we still get the same impact that it has? Justin might be above benchmark. He doesn't need the reading intervention. I'm below benchmark, so maybe we don't send 8 teachers, maybe we only send 3, and they work with the little Robbies of the world instead of little Justins. You know what I mean? So we can get more creative in our design and more targeted in our design, and maybe take that $250,000 down to a more reasonable number. But if there's going to be reading taught at that course, or if there's going to be math taught at that camp, not only should it be our teachers, the contract says it has to be our teachers. So the union wouldn't let us run that camp if we were going to do it without our teachers, nor should we. We want our people doing that work because they're the trained professionals. They know what we want. They know how to run the play, and they do a very good job. So we just have to learn where we can find the ways to cut that back moving forward, because like I said, I don't know that it's sustainable at this rate, but there's definite value in it, and I want to maintain as close to the product as possible.
Good.
No, I
Is,
just. We have to move on.
What's the grade levels that summer camp?
You have to finish kindergarten this year, all the way up to 8th grade. You can finish kindergarten to finish grade 8. That's the
So
grade
it's,
transition.
I don't know, without doing the math, it's probably over 20% of our student population in those grade levels that are attending the summer camp.
That's why I have a Jared.
That's why I have a Jared.
I don't do my math in my head that fast.
Sounds high.
First,
We have
1,600.
1,200 elementary kids and 350 of them were in summer school. And we certainly saw, even on the first summer school program where they didn't have the kids who took both sessions didn't fall back.
Right.
That they maintained across summer, which is huge.
It was about
I guess,
20%, so that's
yeah.
good.
What is it?
About 20%.
Yeah. So is it an inexpensive daycare that parents are using?
Oh, I
that
think
seems
for
high.
some parents, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
that
exactly
seems
what it is.
high.
It's great. I mean, my goodness, it's like extended school.
It's
You
a
get
free
free-
daycare, right?
And it's
There's no-
education provided by certified professionals, and it's, food provided by experts, and
Right.
fun in a supervised day. I mean, it's a great program. It really is. And it's a great benefit to our parents, but
That's why I think it's a misnomer to say daycare. I think it's
Oh, it's
a very.
Well, I don't think it is. I'm not saying it is.
Yeah,
I'm
but
just
people
saying
who
that
say it
there's a
seem to
reason why
have
there's
always, I
that
mean, some of
many
them are actually
kids,
running.
and I'm trying to figure out why. Does that make
Well,
sense?
it's strategic defense. I mean, it's just a daycare.
I encourage you to come see it this summer. Like, take a walk around. We'll schedule a day. You guys can walk around and see what's happening. It's pretty impressive what they do. They basically launch another school in the middle of everything else that we have going on, and they do a nice job.
As a parent, I could see the draw of it. You get your child to still learn, they get to have fun, they get to go to events, and they get to go on field trip and socialize.
No, I know.
And any other activities during the week of the summer. You may have the YMCA that has their day camp, but there used to be tons of camps available, and they've just dried up and disappeared.
They're starting to come back. We get advertisement requests all the time to put on our social media. There's a STEM camp here. There's a computer science camp.
But I
there.
mean, the Community Guidance Center used to have ADHD camp for kids that had ADD. The news store used to have a camp and for kids that had Downs and other disabilities. And those disappeared because the funding completely dried up. And here you've got something that's stable. It's most of the summer. The kids benefit greatly from it. As a parent, I'd be shoving them out the door at 6.
The funding's drying up. which is
Yeah, I
our
know. It's
problem.
just,
But we can.
Yeah, I think that's honestly what that ESSER's money is for. I mean, you think of that, there's summer learning lost to begin with, right?
Mhm.
And then you had COVID combined with that. If there is a time to offer summer programming, it's now. But also understanding that, if we're going to reduce costs somewhere, I'm looking at what's essential versus what's non-essential to get us through a school year. And I think that's how do we prioritize what are the biggest non-essential, and I hate even saying non-essential because, you look at all this stuff that's on the list and it's like, all of these things are essential. But when you look at the day-to-day, we're not getting rid of teachers, we're not furloughing staff. So those are that's completely out of the question.
So my question on the summer camp. Right now, it's open to any student, no charge at this point.
Correct. Oh, they have to be Indiana area schools.
Yeah, no, correct. A school district resident. Okay. So my question is, on the credit advancement, we allow the student to, if they're meat free and reduced lunch, come for free. And then if they don't, and the parents have the ability to pay that, is that an option, and what would that number look like? So that, maybe that becomes $100,000 cost to us, and I'm just making this number up.
Mhm.
Hoping you guys could verify whatever it would be, and then 150 comes from the parents that perhaps would be able to, just like we do with the credit advancement, and maybe and that helps to kind of, to your point, Julia, sort of spread it around to the community, whether it's a booster group or whatever, and to Tammy's point, if the parents are kind of looking at this as a way to help out with taking care of the kids during the week, if they're going to pay somebody else would pay us to do the same, or hopefully much better. So maybe that's a way to, and again, I'm just wagging it.
Yeah. It's something we look at. I was just thinking out loud. I don't know if 21st Century allows you to charge for their camps now that they're going to become the owner of the camp. We may have to run a parallel camp, or something like that. But we can definitely vet it out and try to find a way.
But even if we have this 21st Century Camp partnership, and you said that we're required by the contract to have our teachers,
Sure.
then you're almost going to have a parallel camp anyway, because the teachers will be funded by the district, even though they're working with or coordinating with the 21st group.
It's not a bad idea. We can look at it.
Then maybe that's the way we save a few bucks and make sure that those opportunities are still there for the kids who need them, regardless of their socioeconomic status.
And if we do the same thing for the driver's education, even though it's only gonna be a couple thousand, that's still a couple thousand. A penny's a penny. And they add up.
Yes, they do.
Except for me, I just spend it. But with most people, they save it.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. It is now 6:12, and I think one of the most crucial part of the agenda tonight is the tax rate discussion. And I'll lead off and say, my feeling about it is what I said the last time, we could probably do it without a tax raise, but this cyber school escalation in costs for the local taxpayers and the safety and security, specifically this year, what hit us was the 3 security guards, which is it's not an insignificant item on the budget. We have a motion on the table tonight that I'd like to talk about. Now, the rate is left blank. I think we had the last discussion, we were kind of all over the place, but there seemed to be some consensus around 1.25. Cinda was go to the max.
Yeah.
Terry was 1. Sue, I don't know, you were,
I wasn't asked. I was online, but I wasn't asked.
what
for my
did you have any
input.
say on that?
Well, we apologize. Oh, the devil for that.
You were around the table and I was there, but I wasn't asked. So, as much as anyone else, I hate to raise taxes. Just
Right.
put that out there. None of us want to raise taxes, but we sat here at the last meeting and we listened to the buildings and grounds. And was there any building in this district that doesn't need something? I didn't think so. We're looking at educational programming that provides extra supports for our students. If we want to continue to be a premier district in this county, we can't survive without raising taxes. You've done it for all these years, and I commend the past board for doing that on one hand, but on the other hand, had you done it incrementally, we wouldn't need to be thinking about a bigger hike now.
So is there a number you might feel comfortable with on this chart? I'm looking at this now.
I would want to stay under $100 definitely
Okay.
per taxpayer, so anywhere from the 4% down. Probably closer to like 250, 2.5.
Well, so the break would be so you're talking about a break of around 3.75, is that what you're saying?
Anything below, anything below the 4.25, because that would be under $100,
Okay,
the average assessed value.
very good. Good points. I agree with everything you said.
And I think, did I just see, was it Homer that did the 5%? Was
Yeah.
that just in the paper the other night? Yeah.
They really need
Well, they're losing the power plant.
I know.
They're losing the power plant. and
That's only the
let's stick
beginning of their
everybody
problems,
else.
I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So Tom, go ahead. Are you not finished? Go ahead.
No, I'm good. Like I said, I'm mixed. I just think we need money to do what we need to do, and the building project coming up scares me.
Yeah.
Are we going to be able to stay at
Well,
the?
the immediate
amount that
problem
we-
though for this year that really, we were skating along here and then the cyber, we're talking about all the cuts we can make and the state legislature is the one that can help us the most and they sit.
Oh, I get it. But
So I
in
think
the
we
meantime,
gotta,
it's our responsibility to figure it out for what
Well,
we need.
as best we can, but it's pretty tough to make up that kind of money. I mean, it's really been an injustice that they've just, protected these cyber schools. It's not about school choice, it's about who pays for it
Mhm.
and how and what they disclose. I think we, as the payers, we have a right to know what they're paying their administrators. I think we have a right to know what they pay their teachers. I think we have a right to know how well kids are doing. And without that kind of knowledge, that's just like saying, okay, we're going to fix your bathroom. We don't know what's quite behind the wall, and we're not going to tell you.
Until we open
So, yeah, it's an injustice. Tom, do you have anything to say about it? Anywhere where you are, you've had a week to think about these rates.
I agree
Half a million
with
a
Cinda. We have to pay our bills. I disagree with the
How long is it gonna be before we're in real trouble? I mean, you're talking now about being $4 million in debt. How long are you gonna let that go? You gotta start carving it. Even if the state comes out with a fair budget, we're still gonna be short. So I think we have to do something. I mean, I don't like doing it like anybody else. I pay the taxes the same as anybody else. And, but we have to do it. I don't see a choice.
I'd also like to add that the previous boards balanced the budgets and put money into the reserve accounts. That if we raise taxes on an ongoing basis, we simply have more money in the reserve accounts. I think the administration did a phenomenal job of getting all this stuff done, using the ESSER's money to get it done. But now the ESSER's money is drying up, and we have all this stuff that has proven to be useful that we're trying to figure out how to fund. So
We were able to
So
reserve
this was
during the
not the
pandemic.
problem last year.
No.
And
Well-
to raise the taxes 2% for the last 5 years would have just made a reserve account of $10 million or $20 million. It just wouldn't have made any sense.
That's always been the trick. This means if Terry and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. So can we reserve next year? It looks like probably not. It's a shame. I mean, that's going to be a serious discussion come October. I don't know where we're going to be, surely the state will have a budget by then. We'll be surely. If not, we should all go down to Harrisburg on a bus and start walking around with big cards. Ron's good at that, isn't he? But I do think that what's put the immediate pressure on this budget isn't ESSER's. We knew that would happen. I do feel strongly that the immediate pressure is the security guards coupled with the cyber costs. And that's two areas where I think the state legislature needs to earn its salaries. We have one of the biggest state legislatures in the country. Earn their salaries and do something instead of taking care of special interests, like PA Cyber, for example. And they can call me if they're listening in, and I'm happy to talk to them. I was told they'd be hard to be regulated. I think this board could regulate them. Jim Schaefer, do you have any?
Well, I disagree with what last said. We've been living in a bubble. Tom, you said we balanced the budget, but we really didn't. We've been living in the red, but we were making do with granted money from the ESSER's funds. So we all knew that was going to pop, and now it is. I disagree with the security guards and cyber being. I mean, cyber's been on there every budget, and it goes up incrementally, but it's on there.
Like this.
It's
like
1.6. It was 1.4 last year. So
That's a big escalation.
it is, and it was 1.1 the year before that. It goes up every year, and I understand that, but that's not the shocking thing. The shocking thing is we fooled ourselves into thinking that we balanced the budget, we as a board, and we weren't. We were using borrowed money on borrowed time, and now it's not there. I'm very disappointed with this list. It's not really what I had in mind when we asked for things to cut. I kind of expected what we discussed later, like, every department going through and cutting, because even if we cut $1 million, we're still projected $4 million in the hole. And nobody wants to cut any of this stuff. Like, there's no good place to cut. We really need to look hard and focus on what the school is supposed to be doing. We're supposed to teach, and we're supposed to keep kids safe. We are forced to be a psych ward. We're forced to be a medical ward. We have teachers' aides emptying catheter bags. Like, there's a lot of things that they have to do that is so far outside the stated purpose. I don't know how we get out of that. I don't know that we can get out of it. But we need to see a list of things that are realistic that we can cut. We spent $700,000 on books and periodicals. I don't know, is that needed? I mean, every year we're spending $500,000 on books and periodicals. That seems extra. That seems like an obvious place to at least look. We cut that in half. It seems like there's a lot of places that could be cut. I'm still at a no. I don't believe tax increases should be inevitable. Just because everybody else is raising taxes, we're spending other people's money. It's my money. It's your money. Some people have kids. Some people don't have kids. Just because you live in a district, you're responsible for paying for the education in the region. We have to be responsible with that money, and I can't stomach even a 0.1%. I can't.
So you're at 0.
Yeah.
Tammy?
Oh, I don't like raising taxes, but the simple fact is bread doesn't cost a nickel anymore. You can't spend a dime to get milk at the store.
So we should take people's money so they can't afford bread?
No, this is a public institution. We help pay into this so that our kids can do well. And we can't expect our kids to do well while telling people we're not going to pay into it. That's not setting them up for success. Giving them old textbooks that are falling apart, not setting them up for success. Not letting them have a magazine that came out before 1960 is not setting them up for success. You're trying to do the best with what we have. That's fine. But you can't use the same numbers year after year and expect everything from 1960s prices to translate into 2020 or 2023, 2024.
Can I respond 1 second? Because I don't. And I don't mean to be argumentative, but life is not in the 1960s. I haven't seen my kid hold a textbook in 2 years.
I have.
Well, I'm just saying, times are way different. Education is way different. I don't claim to be an education expert, but when I see my kids doing work, it's on a Chromebook. It's
right.
So
But
those
Jimmy,
programs
even that
cost money.
Chromebook- even that
I
Chromebook-
understand that.
And I believe that the previous boards budgeted about $250,000 in order to be on the 7-year cycle, where every 7 years, each department recycles, updates their
Tammy, do you have a number?
curriculum.
2.5.
So
Three.
can you cut that back?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or
So
flat
one of
out.
the problems was
Yeah.
when I came on the board, it was $100,000, and so now it's a 14-year. We had an AP class that only had 30 kids in it that was using curriculum from the 90s on a test that had been revised 3 or 4 times. And so and you're right. okay, yeah, you could do that for some time, but
Right.
sooner or later, you're gonna catch up. I don't know what the books and periodicals are. I don't know what the rest of that budget line is. And it's worth looking at. But again, these budgets haven't been randomly generated either.
Okay, Tammy declared a 2.5 flat out. Terry?
My whole struggle is a moral struggle because I didn't vote for the teacher's contract. And the reason was the impact that has on our budget. And we knew that going in, and it's not that we have great teachers, but we also had, a couple of us did our homework and we showed that our teachers are paid well above all the other school districts in the county, the region, the area. So I just have a problem with, I don't want to be a hypocrite, and vote against the teacher's contract, but then go ahead and give money. So I'm really having a intellectual, moral dilemma.
So right now, are you at 0?
Yeah.
Okay, Cinda, and then we'll go to Walter.
Well, I've got the same problem as Terry, except the opposite way. So I voted against the teacher's contract, but knew that when it passed, this amount of money was going to be in the budget and our expenses were increasing. And because our expenses increased, we've got to have some income. I still say 5.2%. And I want to say this. Looking at those percentages, everybody's getting freaked out because 5% seems like a heck of a lot of money. It's like, oh, it's the number. 5.2% is $10.58 a month. That's less than 3 gallons of gasoline. That's Tammy said last time that maybe have 1.25 and have it be $30 a year increase, and that family could just save that money and not go out to eat one time. This is $10.58 a month. Our expenses have gone up above and beyond the teacher's contract, but our income's not going up. And $10.58 a month is completely reasonable to me. And by the way, I'd be paying a lot more than $10.58 a month because I've got more than one property. So I know that people that have more or have more expensive houses, this is the average, but a lot of people are going to pay more, a lot of people are going to pay less. So I still think
5.2.
Yeah.
Okay. Walter, you're up.
So, when I look at it, we're over $1 million down in our revenue based on the assessed values dropping. Coupled with that, in the 19-20 school year, our cyber school was at $1 million. In the 2021, it was somewhere around 1.1, 1.2, and now it's going to be 1.6. So that's a $500,000 to $600,000 increase in like 3 years. I absolutely agree with Tom, but I think his numbers may be a little high on the safety. If we've got 5 guards at 60, plus 100 and some for the borough, plus our safety consultant, the drills, some of the other stuff that we do, that's going to put us right at about $500,000 plus or minus. So we've been hit essentially with a double whammy. Some of it's not within our control, including the $1 million reduction in revenue and the cyber school. Technically, the safety is within our control from a purely legal point of view, but not necessarily from the moral point of view or the consideration of the health and well-being of our students. So to a certain extent, not to be too technical, even that I consider to be somewhat out of our control. And so what I would propose that we do is that we look at about a 1.75% increase, which gives us $200,000 or $500,000 approximately in revenue. And then, if we can find $500,000 that we can squeeze back out of the budget, now we've got $1 million swing, and maybe this then becomes doable. In short, it's increasing revenue some and reducing costs some to make up the difference. And, maybe some of that creative things we talked about earlier, free and reduced lunch for the summer camp, that sort of thing, becomes a way to help get to that point.
Okay, let's go over procedure tonight so that there's no number, Jared, in your motion. So typically, if we're not quite sure, and we're all over the place here. We're probably around 2%. You're saying 175, I'm at 150. So that's where I'm at. So it seems to me that I can put it in, you're the board chair, I can put it in at 1.75 and we're either going to vote it up or down. And we could go through motions until we can find a number we can agree on, unless somebody has a better idea.
There's one thing that we didn't even talk about, when we talk about education, is computers now, we're in a different age, a different era. And you have to keep those up too. That's something, if you don't, Microsoft does not support those. You can only go so many years with Microsoft before you have to upgrade or you lose your system. They don't support it for security reasons. So that's another thing we talk about this we haven't mentioned is you got to keep the technical end of this up. If you don't, you can't support your systems. And
Would you
nowadays,
like us
that's
to
a big
put
thing.
it in at 2?
Yes,
Where do you want it? You want the motion to start at 2?
that's what I would do. That's my opinion.
Do I have an objection
Between
to 2?
everybody then, I think.
All right. 6:33. Now, keep in mind, it's not final. We still have a month, and that's the biggest thing I want the public to know. We're not wedded to it. And we're either gonna, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm not real worried about that, but I don't think we have to go too much higher than that. I think that the administration can figure out how to get the savings lined up globally. I think you can take your time to do it. If it takes 6 months, it seems to me that you ought to have a pretty good idea of giving us some numbers by Christmas.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
All right, so by Christmas, we should know where we're going so we can start to plan. I am curious about what we're gonna do about the reserves, so please think about that. May not be possible this year. We've reserved so much in the past. But-
We'll take a look as we close out.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Jared, I didn't give you much chance to say much, but.
So,
Some of these things